A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Turtola Pier Park, NV Salon, Nail Spa and Barbershop, Tisley Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, and Digicel, simply more speed, reliability and entertainment.
Plug into Digicel Plus and get even more entertainment with Disney Plus included. The best of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic all in one place. Whenever you want, plug into Plus to enjoy Disney Plus and much more with a home fiber bundle. Sign up today. Digicel Plus.
This is the big story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this edition on Set with me, and we're going to go right into it. Honorable Carvin Malone, yes. Territorial at-large representative here in the Virgin Islands. Honorable Malone, no stranger to the set, I want to welcome you again. And
I'll say welcome again, and I'll say thank you for having me here on the big story once again. I think that I'd like to say hello to all the folks in the Virgin Islands, the region, and you throughout the world. So I'd like to say welcome.
Awesome. We want to get right into it. The topic for discourse today is one of concern mainly to the people of Anegada, the people of Jos Van Dyke. We would have seen during the last sitting of the House of Assembly where it was I shouldn't say now. It was passed for the establishment of the
two seats,
additional seats for the Constitutional Review Committee.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, let me just actually fill you in there. In the 2007 Constitution, one of the asks was for an additional ministry. But in order to get the additional ministry, you had to have 2 additional seats, so that the ratio of front bench to back bench would be actually proper.
Yes, so we were getting to that.
Yeah.
We were getting to that, but generally what happened yesterday, what happened recently in the House of Assembly is that this commission has been approved for the setup of the commission generally. And now to go back to what you were referencing is that issue where for years upon years, the people of Anegada and Jos Van Dyke have been saying that we think that we do not get sufficient representation because we are a part of 2 separate districts. We are District 9, which encompasses Virgin Gorda and Anegada, and for District 2, it's parts of Tortola and Jos Van Dyke.
Yes.
And they have been expressing that, look, we think we are sizable enough to have somebody sit in government directly for these islands. Now, you made an attempt, well, you did take to the House of Assembly and a motion to include certain aspects into the terms of reference for the commission to take to the public for discussion. For those who are not very clear about what happened, explain.
Okay, great. I like the opportunity to have this fully ventilated because you see, in the construct of the commission, you remember that in 2021, during that particular House of Assembly, it was passed to have the commission. After the end of the Commission of Inquiry, there were 11 other items that were recommended in the Commission of Inquiry. They wanted to add move the number of persons from 11 to 16, with the governor being able to add 2 or 3.
Yes.
And they also wanted to add the particular recommendations coming out of it. So clearly there were other issues in there that the people of the Virgin Islands have been hammering for years. And I thought that this was a fitting moment. If we're going to get the Honorable Higginbottom, here's 11. Well,
Why
what about
not
the seven that the Virgin
Virgin
Islanders have been asking about for years? And this is what I attempted to do, because these were non-controversial topics, because it is the discussion, because this does not go up to UK for consideration at this time. It goes to the Commission, who will have to take it to the people. Who will have to decide. It comes back to the House, it's voted on, it goes to a negotiating committee in the UK, it goes to the Foreign Secretary, it goes to the Privy Council, it goes to Parliament, and it is then either signed by the Queen and then become law. This is the process that it has to go through. So I'm saying there's absolutely nothing. And let me just tell you that there were provisions made in the 2007 particular act, constitutional order, for these 2 additional seats. But one of the excuses that has always been made was that you do not want to burden the country with another ministry at this time, with 2 other seats, 2 other legislatures at this time. So the proposal
why was that?
Well, I'll tell you.
Burden?
Well, let me just finish there and then you'll see. So I say, okay, fine. Here is what we would do. We'll take away the particular excuses, whatever the reason for having that particular thought. You have 13 members, 4 of which are particular at-large representatives. I'm one. So at least I am saying, well, I'm starting with me. Reduce the number of at-large to 2. Then give the people of Anegada and Johnson Lake what they've been yearning for all these years. District 10, District 11. There's nothing to stop that, because if you're going to have a new constitution, whether it's in 2003 or 2023 or 2024, this is the time, because the next constitutional review may not come until 20 years from now, 25 years from now. The 76 to 2007, it took you basically 31 years. 2007 to now, was it 15 years later, 17 years later, 17. That you have. And this is what I'm saying. If there's any time to do it, the timing is now.
Okay, so let's look at this, and I wish that you could be very candid with me on it. What could be the possible concerns that would allow a government or legislators to not want to reduce the number of at-large representatives? Look at it from a party perspective. You are of a particular party, you have to be out there campaigning to be able to come into government. What it is you stand to lose if we are to go in a direction of having less than the accustomed amount of at-large representatives? Well,
let us be fully honest. There is a school of thought that says that all ministers should be elected at large. There's that school of thought. There's also another school of thought which says that the premier, at minimum, should be elected at large. And then there's a school of thought which says everything should be districts. So there have been the argument, and this is why in 1995, you had the change that basically introduced the additional 4 at large, because it was being hammered at there. And even when it was brought in 95, based on the debates that were happening in 93 and 94, because it was introduced even before, but the legislators at the day had rejected the at-large constituencies. It was brought in 95, an interim. It was almost the only measure that was allowed in terms of an interim order to the 1992 order, and that then, it might have been just a little bit before. That then was the only measure that was taken in. It was viewed then, and I think that Honorable Leader of the Opposition mentioned it. There is still a distaste for the at-large constituencies by some district representatives. They don't like it. But the fact is that it's here. I have no problem in reducing it from 4 to 2. But it is a debate that must be had, because it's not about my views. I'm just putting it out there, because the Constitution right now allows for the additional 2 seats. The Constitution allows for it, but it has not happened in the 15 years since it was allowed. So I'm saying, well, okay, if whatever inhibition you have, let's take it away. Let us go and let us decide. You have 13 seats right now. Okay, fine, you're paying for the 13 members anyways. There are some concerns as to whether or not, how effective it may or may not be, the at-large representation. It was a example or something that they wanted to put on the BVI. But you try it first. Let's see how it works. There's some views. It can work, but you have to work.
So in 20, the previous election from 2019,
yes, 2015,
we saw where we made a move in having junior ministers introduced.
That's correct.
That was a step towards answering some of the cries of people, while their responsibilities and duties does not really put them in full authoritative decision-making positions. They cannot sit in cabinet. Something similar to that cannot be worked out for Anegada and Jas van Dyke, even if you don't want to have ministers for that, direct representatives.
Well, all we need to have is a will, because I'm saying is that you have to have some serious conversation, and those in the front bench, those in the government, those in the House of Assembly must have a will to get this done. One of the arguments have always been as to the population, because if you notice, they tried to equalize the nine districts,
yeah.
1,500, some 1,500, some 1,700, in terms of the number of votes, and you have to have election boundaries. It happens in all places of the world, and so forth. The argument has been that the population in Anegada, the population in Jas van Dyke, doesn't really give you an equal footing in terms of people.
Even come to have.
But I have come to appreciate the fact that the folks in Anegada and Jas van Dyke are saying, well, look, when it comes to our contribution to the tourism product, we are as equal as any other district that you have. So at the end of the day, it is not because financial services may be on Tortola. It means that District 4 has more, for it. Not because the banks are on Tortola. It means that District 4 is more valuable than the Anegada district or the Jas van Dyke district. Because from October, November, you would have a bustling of activities on all of these particular islands, and the head tax going in, head tax coming out, the business, contributions that they have. So I'm saying is that there are ways in which you could do it. You mentioned a junior minister for Anegada, a junior minister for a thing. Are all possibilities. You just have to have the will to do it.
I heard something yesterday, and I said I'm going to ask you when you get on here. Some persons are of the opinion that all 7 of your points were rejected. That motion got straight no's simply because you are not on the government's side. You have removed yourself. You have opted. Yeah, but you remove yourself because you were before. You've removed yourself onto the opposition. Had you been in the government of your National Unity's side, you would have had an even stronger voice to at least have 2 or 3 of those recommendations as part of the terms of reference.
Well, the time for dissecting why I moved will come. Right now, my energy is going to be served in terms of making sure that whatever the people of the Virgin Islands need to know in terms of information, we have an interim amendment order, which a lot of folks who are well-read are still not fully aware of what happened in the Privy Council in actually Parliament. I'm saying that somebody has to make an escape so that the people can know what it is that is sitting and looming out there.
But on the other hand, you also want to be in a position where you have the greater advantage to have those points well put forward.
That would have been in cabinet, wouldn't it?
It would have been in cabinet.
Yes, right. Well, we know what happened there.
It's
You're not going to have me repeat those words, right? The South.
I mean, it's a laugh, but not a laugh. It's a really serious matter. We are in changing times, changing the fortune of times, and we're seeing a shift in paradigms.
Let me just put everybody to ease. The fact is that I am of the opinion, and I have more faith than all of my friends and family combined. I'm of the opinion that at times God.
I don't know how you measure that.
No, because it has been proven over and over again. Yeah. The fact is that at times God extracts you from situations for the greater good. I spoke about the utilitarian concept for the greater good. Mm-hmm. And I think that at the end of the day, what we have to do, because I was part of a particular cabinet, I'm still a Virgin Islands Party member. I was part of the government. There's now a government of national unity, and they felt that in order to move forward, they needed to have certain positions filled by others. One of the challenges you would have, but it's not my fight right now, one of the challenges is that the opposition said that they will join a government of national unity only if they get the seat of power in cabinet. Okay, fine. And then they will go back over and tell you, well, it's not about power. So I'm saying at the end of the day, but that's not my fight. My fight right now is the information to be placed out there so that people are well aware. So that at the end of the day, the UK is working. So Gary, Hickenbottom did his report. I'm still waiting for the Withers-Cox report. I'm waiting for the particular affidavit that supported a particular amendment to our constitution. Unilateral, because I said yesterday, Parliament giveth and Parliament taketh away. Mm-hmm. They've taken away major aspects when it comes to the House of Assembly, when it comes to the ministries, when it comes to the position that you hold in government. It's only to be tabled, it's only to be gazetted, and it becomes a proclamation of which we have to live by for 2 years. Okay. So the people of the Virgin Islands, whether or not you wanted to hear it from me or you wanted to hear it when it happened, you're not going to blame me for not telling you. I am telling you that this is what attains. You need to read the documents for yourself. Ask for the interim amendment order and see what it is. It's not gazetted and it's to the sole discretion of the governor. Okay.
So I want us to go back to what you would have alluded to earlier in terms of the terms of reference for the commission, where you indicated that those recommendations that are there now, those terms of reference that are there now, are those that came directly from the report from Sir Gary Hickenbottom following his commission of inquiry, correct?
There were 3 or 4 of them. There were 4 of them that were approved by the House of Assembly back in 2019
so he pulled those and put it into the report. Are those in the report?
No,
those are added to what he recommended.
That's correct.
And if we would have gone to the extent that where we could have added those, similarly, others could have been added.
This was the time to add them. This is the time to add them. But all is not lost.
Okay, because so that's what I'm interested in.
It is a people's power constitution order. Yes, it has to be approved by the UK, but the commission will now have to set out to do its work. In the one BVI agenda, one Virgin Islands agenda, I am saying
something that you put forward.
That's something I put forward for everyone, and it doesn't have color or parties or that. So what I'm saying is that most of these 8 or 7 points came directly from conversations we had with people who were concerned about these. And they said, well, these are the issues we would like to see as part of the terms of reference in a particular commission. So we'll still have a chance to bring them forward. It would have been best if they were slated in the particular terms and conditions from the House of Assembly so that they'll have to answer them specifically and directly so they can go forward as a group, as groups, as individuals. It could go forward as suggestions coming from a body to the commission, and they will have to then have them heard, have them addressed.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I get that clear. While the House of Assembly failed to have those incorporated in the terms of reference. When the commission is out there meeting the people, they can add, they can take other concerns apart from what's in the terms of reference to the commission. The commission has an obligation to the people now to take those concerns to the relevant bodies to which they have to report.
That's correct.
And is there a possibility that those that are taken, that are not in the terms of references approved by the House of Assembly, can be incorporated into the reviewed Constitution?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, that they could be a part of it when it is done. When the particular work of the commission is done, it comes back to the House of Assembly, so that, because in the last report in 2006, 2005, when it was done, a year and a half later, there were 116 recommendations coming from the 7 terms of reference that were given to them, but they had other concerns that were voiced during the consultation period, and they brought 116 recommendations. So the whole concept of are your voices null and void after this? No. But when it comes back to whoever is in the House of Assembly at the time, will then get a chance to look at whatever listing of recommendations. And you have to then, this is why the next election is going to be important. If you say no to us being a district now, you're going to come and tell us something different, and when it comes back to you, you tell us something different again. So we have to make sure that folks are committed to whatever they're going to tell you they're going to fight for. Some of what you fight for, you will find the reality of it is that it may not be possible at the time. But if you start with a no, how could you expect a yes? But you can't say yes and then change it once you get in. You have to fight for it. I have pledged in terms of getting an Agata adjustment because I was on the Constitution Review Commission at the time, 2005 and 6. So it's consistent with what I feel. It's consistent with what the the particular Virgin Party governments felt all through the years, that they should have a chance and Agata adjustment like to become a particular district. It was argued the other way, that there should be, the 2 additional seats should be at large. So some group will have it move from 4 to 6. I will have it move, well, that's if you have the 15 seats.
Increase from 4 to 6, but in this instance, you were recommending...
Leave the 13.
Leave the 13.
Move from 4 to 2.
To 2. Okay.
And if you want to add the other 2 again and make them at large, well, increase the House to 15. So let that take the time.
And so and this is a little away from what we started off to discuss, but because you would have mentioned this, I'm going to ask you, what about the appeal right now as well, the discussion right now, which says it's time to move junior ministers into cabinet, change that?
Well, they'll have to, because you see right now, the particular NDP at the time, when they moved it, they had a very big backbench. So they felt that too many people were sitting not having enough to do. So they were able to do it. It was all done under the Premier's office only. So it creates a challenge in terms of other ministries who may need it. The ministry is not ours. The ministry is not mine. So I would have welcomed the help under the Ministry of Health, for instance, because you have a number of, you have the prison, you have the you have the social safe haven, you have all of these other areas, big ministries, and this is why they were hammering for a 6th ministry. But if you have the junior ministers, if you put them, if you dispatch them properly, then you can then get the most.
Give them more authority. Give them more power
yeah.
to do certain things.
Yes.
Okay. I'm particularly happy that we would have had this conversation to know that all is not lost.
At all.
I cannot tell you enough how my phone was going off the hook from the people, especially of Anigada. I have not particularly heard from Ms. Van Dyke directly since the House would have made that decision. But Anigada is so strong on that, and it's a known fact because we would have reported on it so many times, where they were told that, you'll have an opportunity when the constitutional review period comes up, and here we are, and you are not making it a priority. Yes, now as you are explaining, they will have an opportunity as a body to still put it forward to the commission, but they needed to see it as a priority, and I guess they do not understand just yet that all is not lost.
Well, all is not lost, number one, but they could be rest assured that they have a voice or a couple of voices, a couple meaning two in this real instance, who will hammer for it, two if not more, who will hammer for it, because at the end of the day, I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's what the people want, it's what it is expressed over the years, and it's what they should have, and so forth. And I don't think that we should actually deny it. If we tried the at-large system since '95 to now, but we can try, if, for lack of a better word, the particular district for the other two particular seats, because it was all a particular trial period for the at-large anyway. So if you move it from 4 to 2, if that fits best, one of the things I almost knew that we would not have been able to was to get district people to say, well, they want at-large membership only for premier and deputy premier. I know that would have been a hard sell, a hard ask, but it's what people are yearning for. How can we get the premier voted at large, so that everybody decide who's next is premier? But before you go, because I see that
I'm not gonna, because I want to give you the opportunity. Yes. In all fairness, while we would have heard about Anigada and the other, tell us a little bit. Give us those other 6 points that you were recommending. I
thought you were never asking.
No, I would not be so unfair to you.
Another item that has been talked about for years is the concept of referendums. We must have a provision where referendums could be properly brought before the electorate. The process of which it is done is what could be up for debate. I had proposed one way. Once it gets onto the agenda, then how do you get it so that it can be voted on? I said, well, based on 2/3 votes approved by the HOA, if 13 votes, then you have 2/3. And then you have a simple majority of the people voting, so that the House of Assembly have an opportunity, because I'm saying you have to put your vote where your mouth is. If you're going to go and you're going to say you support a specific measure, then we want to make sure, because it has to be funded. Now, this is why you have to go to the House of Assembly, because monies have to come, because the elections office has to be mobilized in order to get it onto the box properly. It cannot be a private venture. It has to be properly done. They also look in terms of time limits, term limits that folks are looking for. They've been talking about this for years. There were 2 particular schools of thought that says that the premier should be the only one who have term limits in terms of how 3 terms, skip 1, and then you could actually come back in again.
And there was an age limit discussion as well, I think, at some point.
At some point there were, in terms of how old you have to be to be premier. Yeah. But on this one, in terms of the particular term limit, what we're saying is this. I threw it out for the entire particular 13 members at this particular time. But it's a discussion to be had. And somewhere between none and all, you come with a particular concept. There was also a particular timeline to be developed, because since 1962, when the West Indies Act came into force, there was a concept that you would have in terms of, are we ready for this semi-autonomy, semi-independence, because most of the countries still have the monarch as the head of state. So this is why I call it semi-independent. Those that have gone republic have, basically have closed rank altogether. So what I'm saying is that if we're not ready for the republic stand, and there are those who are ready, but if we're not ready as a people for the full republic thing, there's the interim step that has been taken by almost all of the other countries for a very long time. Guyana, for instance, they went the semi in 62, but by 70, I think it was something like that. Then they went fully, So this could be done. So what is the time frame for this? Okay. The people must decide in a referendum. So one of the first items, once you have the referendum provision, then one of the first items would then be to take this to the particular call. Then you have the provision for recall. And there is a steep line because you have to have 2/3 of the votes cast from 50% of the persons in the constituency. We don't want every time you are mad that you didn't get a $500 donation from a politician, you want him recalled or her recalled and so forth. So it has to be substantive in terms of what it is. So you have to get enough of the particular persons who will come out and vote, over 50%, and then once they vote, then it has to be 2/3 of them who would have to make a decision for a recall. If those numbers are off, it is not going to be rocket science. It's not going to be new. There's no earth-shattering thing in terms of that particular provisions. It is all throughout the world. It's done in other places. It could be done, it could be talked about, it could be done, and it could be not worked out. You're looking in terms of whether the administration and responsibility for the civil service, public officers, 2007 committee, they had recommended that it be devolved to a minister, but there were disagreements when the negotiating team went up, and supposedly that was the reason why it was not allowed at that time. Oh. I wasn't there, so I don't know. Okay. But that's what's being told.
And that's why it's left under the deputy governors.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then we actually talked again whether or not the premier and deputy premier should be determined from the at-large candidacy, the two that are left, and of course whether or not Anegada and Jahphix will become districts 10 and 11. So those are the particular items. But what is the most telling part of this that we cannot miss is that if we're going to go the other route in terms of have self-determination, semi-independence, call it, for lack of a better word, then we have to build the institutions. We have to make sure that the people are comfortable, that there are enough provisions in there so that the power don't get taken away from them, from the UK, and from all other administrating states, and then you turn into a rogue state. So I'm saying that with the addition of these, it helps you to say, okay, fine, the power remains in your hand. If I'm messing up, recall. If I'm in there for too long, term limits. If I am, you choose your referendum, and then you could have the power back in the hands of the people. Not every 4 years, but every minute.
Wow. Wow. But it took a commission of inquiry to show that that really can happen within any given time, and it's something that we wish we hadn't gone to, but it did happen. So yeah, I think these are valid points. These are conversations that we've been hearing of and seeing shared far and wide, and I must commend you for taking that bold step in leading this initiative in this time, because like you said, this is something that's been talked about for quite some time. There was relatively nothing new among those, but it's been there and spoken about very often. I'm happy also to hear for Anegada and Jahphix that all is not lost. They still have that opportunity to band themselves together as a group and to still make that representation.
Well, that is very important, because at the end of the day, we spend too much time hating on each other, too much time finding out what all we want to fight against, and not enough time as to what we want to fight for. So I am a very big advocate, and this is why some of the questions you may ask in terms of how others feel about me, who cares? I am looking for what is important in terms of what is best for the Virgin Islands. Because if I spend too much time trying to find out why you don't like me the way I think you should like me, well, what time am I going to have working for the people, working and making sure that these things come on the table? We have to decide what is it we want for the Virgin Islands. It's a very big ask. It sounds simple, yes? Yeah. It's a very big. We have to equally decide what we do not want, so that we can then put that on the particular agenda. We don't want A, B, C, D, E. A lot of people are thinking that they know what they don't want, but when you give them the choice, they stammer.
And in all of this, what is key is education. But
that's correct.
Honorable Malone, I really have to say the clock
Yes.
is on us right
That's
now.
right.
Beautiful discussion. There's so many points that you were able to shed some light on, which we would not have heard while you were presenting in the House of Assembly yesterday. That would have given some level of comfort and some even more clarity to those points and the reason why you would have taken the stance that you took. I want to thank you.
Yes.
Wish that you could continue on that education drive,
Yeah.
because that is key, that we know how to do in 30 seconds. Your closing statement.
Well, let me just give a plug for One Virgin Islands Agenda. If you want to get involved in what may well become the Sunday conversations, then you can then WhatsApp me your name, your cell number, and your particular email address to 3460332. And if you desire to be a part of that, because your ideas are not alone and other people can share theirs, and you'll see how common they are in terms of other people having the same particular concept. So we have an interactive group, and we're not going to ask you what party you're with, what color you represent, and so forth. But what we don't want is a number of negative people come out and they have some other gripes that they want to take care of. We have enough sites for that. We have enough particular interactive chats for that. This is all about positive vibes. So maybe I have to ask Mr. Sproul to actually use his song as a theme song. Positive vibes around here.
All right, Mr. Sproul. So yes, the positive vibes, and it's all positive when you get here, giving both sides of things, looking at things from the nay and the yeas.
That's good.
So I want to thank you again for taking time out, and I want to thank you for tuning in for this edition of The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.